Joining us now, in many ways, the face of those efforts for this White House, Elizabeth Warren, Assistant to the President and Special Advisor to the Secretary of the Treasury, now tasked with setting up the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Professor Warren, thank you so much for being here.
It's good to be here.
Republicans coming to Washington have their sights on you. Several already saying they want the agency you're helping setting up dismantled before it even launches. How does the mission of consumer financial protection fit into this idea of an agenda for the middle class?
You know, I have to say I'm really surprised by this move. Following the Great Depression, it took 50 years before anyone started chipping seriously away at the new reforms that had been put in place to protect us. Now here we're coming out of, we hope coming out of another great recession. We've passed serious reform, and it's just a matter of months until people are talking about how to undercut this new Consumer Financial Protection Agency. You know, this new agency has not yet drawn breath, and yet there are those who are saying, let's do what we can to weaken it, to make sure that it's never able to have any effect, to be an effective voice on behalf of middle-class families.
In terms of the middle-class agenda of this White House, the middle-class agenda that Democrats hope to present to try to regain their majority in the House, to try to make up for some of the election gains that they suffered, and to try to do what they want for the country. Consumer financial protection is one of these things that has been defined by its enemies as an extra layer of regulation, as an extra layer of bureaucracy that will hamstring businesses and therefore hamstring job growth. What's your take on that argument?
Well, so let's just be clear. That argument didn't win. The Consumer Financial Protection Agency became law not because there was some special interest group pushing for it or some lobbyists. Remember, the Wall Street lobbyists said they would kill it before it was ever born. They lost, and they lost because this is an agency that really is there for middle-class families. Let me give you an example of that. This agency is about being able to tell in advance what the price of a credit product is, how much risk is associated with it, and being able to make comparisons. So you could look at a credit card, for example, tell what it costs, tell how risky it is, and compare 4 credit cards and tell which one is the cheapest. Now, American families think that's a pretty good deal. Recent poll says 96% of American families say we need to get rid of the fine print in these financial contracts. 96%, that's Democrats, Republicans, independents, libertarians, vegetarians, everybody. This is not a partisan issue. This is a core middle class issue. American families have been hit hard. Flat wages, rising core expenses, they've turned to debt. Debt has turned out to be very dangerous. It has really torn a hole in the bottom of the economic boat for millions of middle-class families. What this agency is about repairing that boat, and families are with us on this.
You have been studying the economics of the middle class, of American middle earners for the last 30 years. What's going to make the biggest difference on the return of a middle class? You talk about stagnating wages. You talk about the parasitic effect of predatory debt marketers, and these other issues. But in the big picture, what is going to make a difference about the return of the middle class? Is it ultimately going to be something that happens through the tax structures? What can be done?
I think they're going to be, look, let's face it, there are a lot of pieces that are broken, and as a result, it's going to take a lot of things to start fixing it. We're going to have to work on the wage side. We can't live with stagnant wages for the next 30 years for American workers. Rising core expenses really matter here. This is what's pushed families into debt. Rising expenses for housing, rising expenses for health care. Those have been really tough on American middle class. But here's one we can fix, and we can start fixing right now. And that is that families turn to debt. They turn to debt to deal with medical bills. They turn to debt to pay for college. They turn to debt to make it from here to the end of the month. And that debt turned out to be really dangerous. And it has put lots of middle-class families, millions of middle-class families, over the edge financially. This is an agency that can say that problem we can fix, and we can start fixing it now. And it doesn't take tax money to do that. What it takes is leveling the playing field at saying, look, we just want some basic fairness here. The pricing has to be clear up front. The risk has to be clear up front. And it has to be easy up front to make comparisons among products. That means getting rid of fine print. That means no more tricks and traps in the game. When that happens, more money stays in the pockets of American families and less of it drains out to the financial institutions that have become so powerful.
Elizabeth Warren, Assistant to the President and Special Advisor to the Secretary of the Treasury on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, demonstrating tonight why she is both of those things and one of our nation's most eloquent voices on these very, 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 very central issues. Thanks for being here. Good luck, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.